Good afternoon, you guys. It's your boy Ben Mahari here, represent Mahari Nation Sports Podcast. Much love to the entire LDBC. Um, if you want to tune in for some basketball talk, tune in to Basketball Conversations every Friday night, 9 p.m. Central Time. This is where we discuss basketball-related topics, news, debates, and everything else in the world of basketball. And for those of the new people that's coming in, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon to get all the latest notifications when I drop videos and live streams. And please spread the word about the channel. All right. I'm just going to get down to it and get to the chase here. Today, we had the funeral service of Mr. George Floyd. All right. And it was a beautiful scene watching it on television. I was at work, during that time when it was going on. But, it was really nice to see all the people in Minneapolis and St. Paul, unite together as a community, to pay respect to a man that was wrongfully killed at the hands of racist, corrupt police. You know what I mean? And the one thing that I could really take away from this, whole service is that solidarity and basically the commitment to fighting for racial equality is what I took from this whole experience. Because what people need to recognize and understand is this is a huge game-changing point in American history. People are going to talk about the death of George Floyd for years to come. This is something that is not going to go away, okay? When we talk about police brutality against black people, we're going to talk about George Floyd. We're going to talk about Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, Jamar Clark, Philando Castile, Trayvon Martin, all those victims at the hands of, corrupt police, all right, at the hands of racist police officers. This is going to enforce the movement to change police reform and force the change on reparations. And more importantly, this is going to enforce people to now stand up more than ever. All right, to fight, to basically voice the fight on racial equality for black people. Because whether you understand it or you don't, we have been suppressed as a people for centuries. It has not stopped, and it's continued to get progressively worse. When you look back at this decade, at the last decade, I should say, Trayvon Martin, to me, was kind of the beginning point. Now, let's keep this in perspective. There have been a lot more of these kind of familiar murders way back in the day, way before Trayvon Martin started, okay? And so the one thing that we could take away from the Trayvon Martin thing is that it began the spark that a lot of racist whites can pretty much say that, oh, we basically killed another innocent black man because we were in fear of our lives, and it continued to get progressively worse as time went on. And as we move now to a new era in American history, all right, we are now in a position now where blacks have the opportunity of a lifetime to really push this agenda of reparations and, enforce the fact that these bad police officers and corrupt police need to go, because we cannot live in this country where we are fearful of our lives because we get pulled over by the police. Okay. And I really truly believe that, now this is the opportunity to push that agenda even further. And another big thing that I also want to take on this is particularly, you have to now start picking a side now. You cannot play both sides of the fence. You cannot, play dipsy doodle anymore. You either for racial equality for black people or you're not. There is no in between anymore. All right. And I've seen various people around social media showing their support for George Floyd and support for Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, all those victims at the hands of corrupt police. All right. And then I've obviously saw the other side of the fence. All right. Which also includes Drew Brees. And I already dropped a video about that too. So you can go ahead and check it out for yourselves. But I really felt that the service was well done. We had the opportunities to, kneel, give the prayers and give our respects to a man that was wrongfully killed for no reason at all. You know what I mean? And ironically, it took place on Memorial Day. So it's going to add more context to it. I think that right now we need to start teaching the next generation of Black Americans that you have to continue on fighting for equality and keep on fighting for the ancestors that were wrongfully mistreated for all these centuries. We have to continue to teach on that, and we have to teach them on not selling out to your own people, because when you do that, you betray your own principles, you betray your family legacy, but more importantly, you betray your own bloodline. If y'all can understand what I'm coming from this, I think that the funeral taught us a lot of lessons, and people that were not aware of racism in this country, I've seen some of them, starting to wake up on the whole reality. And my pushback on it is, I commend them somewhat for it, but if you were ignorant to racism in the first place, what makes you think you're going to be ignorant to it even when it's all over? All right. People that have been aware about racism for the longest of times understand and know what time it is. But for those who have been ignorant and just are wanted to submit, just basically dismiss the entire notion of racism, you live in a fantasy world where it just does not exist. All right. Black people have been mistreated by police for centuries, going back to the slavery era. All right. And for all those people that wanted to escalate violence against protesters like the president of the United States and somewhat, listen, all you're doing is putting more flame to the fire. And people are now recognizing that this president does not care about racial equality. In fact, people I've seen people literally who used to work in Washington pretty much displayed their disgust against Donald Trump, because they're pretty much stating that he is further dividing the country than uniting it. And I think that really the real essence about what we're seeing here today is that people are now united together to fight for one purpose, for basically racial equality for black people. And we have to continue to push on that agenda and that narrative, because if we let this slide by, if we don't do our due diligence to keep on fighting for reform on black people when it comes to the police, then we're basically disgracing the memory of those people that were killed at the hands of police. And so I'm going to do my part to continue to spread awareness about these stories and about what the police have done to black people historically, so that way the next generation can recognize it and do their due diligence to keep on pushing that fight, because we cannot all do it one at a time. We have to do it together, equilaterally and collectively. And yes, we may not always agree on a lot of different things. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that have different agendas and different opinions. But if there's the huge respect factor and the understanding that we have to unite together, and at times of racism and bigotry is stronger than ever, that's how we're going to get things moving here. And for all the sellouts that want to, further divide the black community and wanted to split their white supremacist, rhetoric towards the black community, you don't deserve to live. But more importantly, you don't deserve to even breathe in this country, because you are part of the problem, not part of the solution. And I'm not going to sit there and allow that to happen. All right. Because we need to do our due diligence to exile these kind of people out of our community, because they don't belong there, and all they do is create more problems than we need at this particular point. So I felt that that whole funeral service was well done. I even seen the police chief, take a knee as the coffin was coming into Minneapolis too. And so it was really a heartwarming, funeral service. You know what I mean? And very, very sad at the same time too. And I even saw the Minneapolis mayor literally break down and crying. Even stood to a knee while he was basically paying his respects to George Floyd. I never seen that in a lifetime, but I'm glad I was able to see that. But we have to continue to push for justice. If there's no justice in either of those cases that I've mentioned in this video, then we cannot have any peace. It's very simple. No justice, no peace. All right. And if you don't like what I have to say in this video, leave my channel immediately, because this is what we're going to be doing from this point forward. Sports is a good way to basically, suppress those kind of issues, but they're the form to use to highlight these issues. And like I said in my Drew Brees video, Drew Brees was completely off the mark, and he was totally wrong in his words. And he tried to put out an apology on Instagram. You have to abide to those words now, because there's no turning back on it now. You basically said what you said. Now you have to stick to your words. And if you don't stick to your words, you are basically a hypocrite because you basically spit out the kind of rhetoric that most people that are dismissive of racism spit out, but you choose to turn around and make a fake apology out of it. You can't do that anymore. Nope, you cannot. So that's just my feelings on it. Hopefully that basically the looting and all that stops. But if there's no justice for either of those cases that I mentioned, you're gonna see rioting and I'm using the word rioting for this specific reason because there's gonna be people that will riot. All right, an uprising is basically illegal, lateral people protesting for a particular issue. All right, but if those people that have committed those crimes turn out to be not guilty, you're going to see flames. You're going to see destruction that you have never ever seen in American history. And I'm not playing when I'm saying it. All right. They better not get off. I'm telling you, they better not get off. They better make sure they get all guilty verdicts and spend the rest of their time in jail and make sure they stay them in general population where they're going to have to fight to survive. That's how I hope that turns out to be that way. But basically, we're going to see what happens as the trial, proceeds. So rest in peace to George Floyd. My heart and condolences to him and his family as they're going through this horrible ordeal. But his life is going to be a reflecting reminder of the of police brutality towards Black people, and hopefully that this is going to inspire a lot more people to protest and basically fight for change and basically reform against police. But tell me what you guys think in the comment section.